Ladies and gentlemen, you might have clicked on this video because of the epic thumbnail. You might have clicked on this video because of some sort of clickbait title. Or you might have clicked on this video because you like my content and you tend to watch whatever I post. Regardless of whichever bucket you are in, this is one of the most epic videos I have ever uploaded. As of a couple of days ago, here in July 2026, I have defeated my 500th Grandmaster. To put that into perspective, it's not exactly easy to find the number of Grandmasters that are walking the earth right now, but I think it's less than 2,000. And if you combine my chess.com victories with some of my over-the-board victories, I have defeated nearly 1/3, 1 out of every 3 Grandmasters on planet Earth. And I think that's pretty impressive. I asked chess.com this question because I thought the answer was going to be something like 100 or 200. But I have defeated 500 Grandmasters at least one time in my life. That's not too bad. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of those games in this video. I'm going to pull up 5 games. The last year has been good to your boy. Now, this was the final Grandmaster that I played. An anonymous Grandmaster with a rating of 3150, at least when we played, and then I took 20 of his rating points. And I got it by defeating a 3100 rated player. A week ago, I played Grandmaster Amireza Puramezanali from Iran. And this was the first time I ever defeated this individual. This past year, I also defeated Brazilian Grandmaster Yago Santiago. And of course, in the last year, I also beat Hans and Nepo, right? So now I have made separate videos about those games, so I'm not going to do a deep dive on them. But it's been a crazy year. I've beaten some real superstars. I've beaten players I've never beaten or really even knew about until we played. And all these games were fire. So look, we're going to start off. We gotta go down memory lane. You obviously forgot my game against Hans Niemann already. Maybe you don't even know that I defeated him. There's clips all over YouTube. They put my reaction, his reaction. It was a nice game. It was a really nice game. It was a Karo Khan. And I played the fantasy variation against him, and he played a very good line, e6, bishop b4, very professional variation. I played a3, which is a gambit line. You try to get your opponent to take, and you can't take because of queen h4 check, but this line is very complicated and sharp, and Hans played very, solid. He played bishop a5, and I've had a few Grandmasters play this variation against me, and it's just difficult, it's difficult to get anything here. Black fights in the center and has a very good position. But I managed to, slowly outmaneuver Hans here. I advanced in the middle. I locked up the position so that his knight wouldn't be able to transfer through the center. He offered me a trade. I defended my bishop. He went knight f6, and I played h3, and obviously I was going to walk my king out of the center. So pawn takes, pawn takes. Now, from the opening, Hans had an advantage. He had a better setup of pieces. His king was safer than mine. But, I was just playing, and, he went rook c8, king h8. Sorry, not king h8. King h8 is the top move of the computer here. But he went knight h5 and tried to advance to the f4 square. Now, I traded. I brought my king to h2. And suddenly this plan, just wasn't the best for him. And my game plan is going to be on expanding in the middle and walking down this side of the board. And, Hans baited me in with this type of aggressive play. But after I infiltrated with my queen and played d6 check, he lost a pawn in the middle of the board. And at this point in the clip, he's kind of like, Levy, time to panic, queen d4, I offer a queen trade. One of my best moments of this game was the move that I played right here. It looks like Hans is going to create some counterplay against my king, maybe bring his queen, maybe checkmate me. And this was just a pretty sick move that I spotted in 2.8 seconds because it's programmed in my brain. I sacrificed the rook e7. And it's not just that I'm threatening mate and putting pressure on the position. It's not like he can't even, he can't take. It's that he doesn't have many moves, right? So I go knight e4, and then I take, and queen e4, and we get into a time scramble ultimately where I am completely winning, right? I have this position, I'm 2 pawns up, but it's never too late for me to crap my pants. Unfortunately for Hans, I do not crap my pants, and I end up, just kind of stabilizing the position and advancing my h-pawn. And I get my pawn all the way down to the corner of the board, like this. I think somewhere here I actually blundered equality, but, you know, anyway, this is a totally lost position because black can never leave the corner. And now I'm just going to walk my king over here and eat the remaining pawns. I remember playing this game. I didn't know I was playing Hans. I had like a heart attack while playing this game, but I, you know, I managed to walk my king and win. And against Nepo, it was a game with the black pieces, and, you know, ignorance is bliss, because in this game I played the Knight C6 Sicilian and into a Rossolimo for the first time in my life. And in this position, I played a move that's just bad. I didn't know I was playing a bad move, but it's funny because when I played this move, I think in the live stream that he did, he was like, you know, G6, I don't know this move. And it's good that he doesn't know it because it's just terrible. And I played a relatively normal game. He played a very bad move in the opening. He played Knight F3, which just allows me to go D5 instantly and equalize. And, you know, I played D4. It was definitely an interesting battle. He jumped in with his knight. I thought I was stabilizing, and this queen trade is no good for white. He needed to, you know, keep the queens on the board, but ultimately he's 3,200, and he manages to outplay me and get a good position. But this move, G4, is a mistake, and it allows me to play a crushing counter-punching move. Here he needed to take, and bring his bishop back, attack my knight, and then take. Not so easy. He goes here, and now rook e4. And, you know, me and these rook moves, man, we really get along. You know, rook e4, I meet fire with fire. Danger levels, you don't have to acknowledge the threat if you can make a threat of equal or exceeding value. And this is a major problem because if he moves his bishop, I take with check. I think rook e4 certainly came as a nasty shock to him because now, you know, he doesn't react so well. And after takes, knight d2, like in this position, black is just better. I mean, white has a weaker king. White probably has pawns that are more exploitable. Even here, I could have went rook e8, rook c2, rook e2, just like powerhouse in with my rook. Don't even take the pawn back, just get activity, make it difficult for him to move his pieces. And he and I got into a scramble. I had 13 seconds against 47, but this was back when Title Tuesday was bonus time. Actually, this game was 2024. I guess both those games might have been 2024. You know, I managed to outplay Nepo in an otherwise horrendous endgame. Like, I'm down a pawn, and I'm down 27 seconds on the clock. But by a miracle, I maneuver my pieces around, and I get this outside pass pawn, and, you know, I get a 5, and he's still winning. And then right here, he also starts panicking a little bit. I play knight e4, rook f3, and just f4, and he's just lost. It's just crazy. Like, I managed to out-scramble him. I take, and he tries to run back, and I got my pawn running down the board, and I have rook c3, rook e1, and somehow I beat Jan Nepomniachtchi, which is like insane, right? Now, the next couple of games, I'm not playing players that are as strong. Although, I don't know, maybe, you know, maybe this is a super grandmaster. I have no idea. You know, but I played this individual, Santiago. Well, Santiago maybe doesn't do it justice. There might be 47 grandmasters named Santiago in Brazil. But this is, you know, I'm going to do my best accent. Ready? Brazilians, let me know how I do. Yago de Moura. I don't know. You have to sing when you speak in Brazilian Portuguese. You know what I'm saying? You got to say, Yago de Moura Santiago. All right, anyway, obrigado. We're gonna analyze this game. D4, G6, and, you know, in this game I played kind of a stupid aggressive opening. He played H5, but it turned into more or less a Trumpowski. I took, and here instead of taking with the bishop, he took like this. I played E4, you know, I took the big center. Queen F3, game got very dynamic very early. We castled on opposite sides. Now, from the opening, black is better. Black is just better. Black has better development. Black has the bishop pair. You know, black is going to really be putting a lot of pressure here. I think bishop h6 here, very natural, easy move, applying some pressure. It went knight e7, which, I mean, to be honest, black can do a million things, but he's trying to play c5, b5, b4. Like, it's quite clear that because black has a lead in development and better quality pieces, he's going to be first to develop the attack. So I need to catch up. That's why here I offer the trade of light squared bishops, and he needs to keep the bishops on the board. He absolutely cannot trade pieces. This is not a bad move, but the simple trade of that bishop allows me now to maybe stabilize the position. I play d5, which is not the best, but at least, you know, I'm trying to keep the center closed. I trade this for keeping at least the center closed. And, you know, black now needs to get going, so he goes queen a5. And now, after king b1, you know, black just should generate some power here. He plays rook e8, which is fine, but he plays too slow. You know, he plays rook e8, rook e7, and he does this. And it's kind of interesting here, like, what should he be doing, right? Like, what should you be doing in this position? Rook e8 is probably fine, but like you need to probably play on the queen side. You need to either play b5 or queen b5, create some threats. To me, b5 is a very natural move, but you have to understand, like, what is White's next move? White's next move is g4, right? I'm also going to start an attack. The demands of the position are as such, but this is not good enough because now I have knight takes h5 at a minimum, and this queen went out here, but the attack never got going. So you have your most powerful piece standing on the outskirts of the board looking to do something, but the queen on her own cannot do anything, right? Knight takes h5 is now the move, and here my opponent begins to panic. And this is generally what happens, right? Like you feel like you are in control, suddenly you're no longer in control, like Bane at the courthouse with the guy right toward the end of Dark Knight Rises. Do you feel in charge? Yeah, I mean, pawn takes, you're going to lose this, so my opponent goes here. And now this allows knight f6 check and knight e4. And this is, the equivalent of connecting your hands in wrestling. Some of you wrestle, some of you do grappling, 99% of you don't. The biggest advantage you can have in an offensive position, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but to simplify things, if you can clasp your hands, you have a good grip on the opponent and you clasp your hands, that's full control, right? Because then you can lift, you can control the body, you got to break the hands, that's what you have to do. I taught you something, by the way. Now when you go after this video and get into a street fight, you're gonna wrap the arms, you're gonna pick it, wrestling is the solution to many of life's problems, including in chess when you play a child at your next chess tournament. For legal reasons, that is a joke. I am not liable if you are stupid enough to do something like that. This is like clasping the hands, okay? That was a very long-winded way of saying this is bad for black. Because now you're not going to get the rook, you're not going to get the bishop, none of these pieces are going to get active. I'm going to go g4, h5, g5, I'm going to open up this position, my rook is going to get in, the game is going to end somewhere over there, okay? I can predict the future. Well, this already happened, but So queen a6, g4, easy peasy. My opponent sacrifices a knight, and the idea is if rook h4, queen f1. Now, many of you would freak out at this, right? You look at this position, you go, oh my god. Queen f1, I only have this. And then queen c1, defended by the bishop. Oh my god. But the chessboard does not care about words. It doesn't care how you feel. The chessboard has a solution on it. There's no emotions attached to it. If you calculate rook h4, queen f1, king c2, queen check, and either of these moves, and you're safe, and there's no follow-up check, and if you go here, you are actually safe. The queen cannot check you. The pawn can check you. That's one thing you have to keep an eye on. And maybe you think b5, a5, I'm going to get mummified. Maybe, but you got to take. Queen f1, queen c1. Actually, both checks are okay. This looks like a very scary position. I cannot lie to you. b5, it looks like you're going to get mated. But if you actually just chill for a second, you are completely fine. Now, at this point, I could sacrifice my rook. And if king takes, I would mate in a few moves. And, if queen takes, at least the queen is gone from the attack. But there's nothing wrong with the move g5. And after c4 check, I just calculated king to a3. Like, don't go here, obviously. But if you go here b4 and you just take, the king is actually completely safe. It's kind of fascinating, right? So you have to calculate a king run, but then you're going to win. My opponent went here, and this just loses by force. Rook h7, king here, rook h8. And my opponent resigned because after king here, queen h3 is a checkmate, and I have met my opponent, on the outskirts of the board, and now they lose. And this all happened because I managed to the knights held together. The knight defended the knight, which defended the rook, which defended the other knight. Like this loop, these knights are like an infinite loop of power. You cannot take either of them because they defend each other, and whichever one you were to take, I would take back and continue to maintain my control of the position. This was kind of a cool game. Black started off very good. He obviously had a very strong initiative here, but as I tell beginners and intermediate players, around 80% of the time, your best move in a position is not going backwards. It's either going laterally or trying to make some sort of progress. This would have made a little bit of progress. I still would have tried to trade the bishop, but then you try to keep the bishop on the board. The side with more space, with more control, doesn't want to trade pieces because then you would lose that control. And then at some moment, you can go knight e7, but honestly, you can even sacrifice a pawn. If the bishop takes, rook b8, you can sack the knight. There's this, and rook b2. Like 80% of the time, roughly, rough number, you can make progress in the position by going sideways or forward, especially in your games. And Here, my opponent got out to a good start, but wasn't able to convert. Now, these next 2 games were both won with over 90% accuracy. This was my recent climb. My highest ever blitz rating is only like 3,010, and I'm near my peak. I'm around 2990 right now, and I feel like I'm cooking. I've been playing really well recently, so, you know, that's good. All right, d4, b6, and I got to play in this position, one of my favorite lines. This is a position that frequently comes from my Dutch defense course. If you haven't learned the Dutch defense yet and you're an intermediate player and you struggle with the black pieces against anything that's not the king's pawn, you should really do yourself a favor and sign up for Chessly. I know I promote my book, I promote how to win at chess next level all the time, I promote these things, but I promote these things because I make high quality material, all right? This is not like some BS I'm trying to get, you know, scam you to spend your money on and never touch again. The Dutch defense is fantastic, and the position that you get is something like this, where, you know, you damage the opponent's pawns and it makes it hard for them to move. And then here, you put your knight on e4, you play d6, knight d7, knight f6. When this bishop is over here and they have that pawn back, you can launch an attack. In this game, my opponent, you know, immediately, the Grandmaster tried to get rid of his doubled pawns. And even though I could take, like, he's going to get to play the bishop out, etc. So what did I do? I jumped in with my knight. I'm attacking a couple of the pawns. This trade, to me, benefits black. I mean, it only made my rook better. I control bishop a3. Knight c3 is just the problem. He goes here. And I was very proud of my move. I went knight c6, which is just the best move. Even though you are blocking your bishop, I then want to plant my knight on c4 and completely control the game. He went knight back to d2, which is a perfectly reasonable move. I can trade, but I can also play d5. I really like this move d5, because white now is sort of like, you kind of have to play f3. You feel like that's the only way to make progress, but then I can move my knight back and your bishop is terrible. So my opponent tried to go and reclaim the e5 square. I just simply improve my bishop. That's an easy improving move. Bishop f4, h6. I'm always looking at g5 type of stuff. Knight e5. And I like this move, even though it's not the best move. You know, I can take, but that would allow bishop e5. I just left. And I thought this was a very funny moment because, you know, his knight just can't move forward whatsoever. And I'm maybe going to go g5. Computer liked to trade and then put the bishop on c4 and stuff like that. But my opponent went c4. And this is kind of a funny moment. You know, you go c4, you're trying to open up the position, and I just took. And now white is like, oh, yeah, that is possible. You can't actually take back because I'm going to take on d4. So you have to, you know, do something like this first. And now there's this. And now there's a major problem. It's a major problem because my knights are just too strong. I'm jumping into c3. I can always go c3. If you lose your light squared bishop, I always have tricks in the position with my knight coming down. So my opponent took here, and this allows a transformation of the board that completely dominate, you know, gives black all of the initiative. Initiative in chess is a series of moves where you are creating threats, but you are not overextending. You are also honestly making long-term improvements for the position. So I went here, and that immediately frees up the h4 square, and I get my queen right away. And it's not just about attacking this and this. It's about the fact that the g file is open. So I have rook f6, rook g6. You can kind of see where this is going. I immediately smell the blood in the water. The attack on the king, I'm like if you visited your local big box store. You know, I'm talking the Walmarts, the Costco's, the Sam's Club, whatever. You know, there's a million of those now. I don't know if that's a thing, and you know, whatever. I am like the Mikhail Tal version of something maybe available. Yeah, it's not designer, you know, it's not the top, but it'll do the job. You know what I'm saying? And I smell it, right? So e3, and now it's just a very nice thing. This is an overloading tactic. The queen is overloaded. It cannot defend everything. Bishop c4. If queen c4, queen f2 is vicious. So my opponent goes here, but that allows me now I could take, but first I give a check. And if the king hides, I can always take and go here and start some sort of attack. But this is just game over. Bishop here, and you know, regardless, I probably could have went bishop e2 as well, but, you know, bishop d5, f3, takes, and my opponent tries to play defense, and this game is just finished. One crushing blow after the other. This is the equivalent, we talked about wrestling earlier, this is the equivalent of when a fighter is covering their head, like this, you know? Some of you have seen, so, if you're ever in that street fight situation that I talked about earlier, and something like this is going on, you know, they're covering the head. Remember, they also have an open body. You can't guard both at the same time. You have to choose one. And so you can throw a couple of parries to this and see if they're kind of there. And at some point, what you're going to do is you're going to rotate and bend your knee and get into the hips. and just absolutely smash a body shot right into the liver, the solar plexus. That really doesn't matter. The average person, is not going to be able. And this person, that's it. They're going to just go down. One of those shots can be more vicious than one to the head. You can throw in the front teep kick. You can go right hand, left hand. If you ever watch a good boxer win a mixed martial arts fight, that's the way they get it done when it's against the fence and the other person is covering up. They don't just only go to the head. Now, again, don't do this at your local chess tournament against a 7-year-old opponent or any opponent. All right, that's not how we. But if you find yourself in a situation you need to defend yourself, that's what you do. So the equivalent here is Rook A3. This is the body shot. You infiltrate along these ranks, just relentless pressure. White can't defend everything in the position, and of course, I'm freaking Gotham Chess. I gotta end the game in style. And boys and girls, we ended the game in style. We sacrificed the queen on G2. Whenever you have a swarm of pieces like this, sometimes a part of your brain needs to unlock, and you need to think more viciously and creatively. You kind of think that the rooks have to do all of the interacting here, but sometimes when the king is suffocated in the corner of the board, the haymaker comes in, and my opponent in this position is just mated. Even though my rook is pinned, even though I'm 2 moves away from getting mated, they're in check. They have to defend themselves, and that would be checkmate. And that is how I defeated Grandmaster Amireza. And this was my 499th Grandmaster win. And this, I actually beat this person twice. First game was a little bit, it was kind of ugly. It was a scrambly game, but we played another one. And this one I'm really proud of. So this was my 500th ever Grandmaster defeat. I've now beaten about 1 in 3 on the planet. That's pretty freaking good. It's a shame I don't get a title just for that. You got to do it in the classical chess. But so in this game, I played my favorite French defense. I play this in Blitz all the time. If you want to play this at your local chess club, no one's going to know what to do. French defense, and as long as they defend with the knight, you offer this trade. Most people here think you're going to bring the queen out, but you actually take with the pawn. And this is a really tricky system. First of all, no one is going to know at your local club how to play this position the best way, the way the computer wants. When this bishop moves, you want to play b6, bishop b7, and point in this direction. And if white is not careful, you will just eviscerate them. With the open g file, you're going to castle queenside. The best way to set up is some sort of like combo bishop setup, and like the bishop has to go here. You make this pawn spike to kind of thwart my attack. Really, not a lot of people are going to do that against you. They're going to put the bishop here, and it's just going to be a target. So I went b6, bishop b2. Bishop b2 is already bad. You really shouldn't play so passively. You need to be a bit more aggressive against such a setup. And this is also bad. This Tetris piece of queens, bishops, knights, it's just not impressive. And I sensed that my opponent wanted to go long, so I went here. And I'm provoking. I'm provoking the move c4, and then I'm going to go out here and, control this diagonal. My opponent went a3. I castled. And queen e4, queen f5, they're all kind of good. White doesn't have an easy choice. Here's a very quick way that white can lose this position in like 5 moves. White can castle, right? What could be more natural? It's immediately -3. Rook to g8, and this is nearly fatal. So again, let's just say white doesn't freak out here. White kind of tries to start an attack. Yeah, just knight takes d4. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces participating, maybe 6 pretty soon. We know you can't take with the knight, but it doesn't even matter because if you take with the bishop, rook g2! King takes, queen g4, king here, bishop f3, queen f3, king g1, and bishop b4, and rook g8 is made, and the queen is hanging. If you win a game like this at your local chess tournament, you need to build me a statue, all right, in the town that you live. You don't have a lot of materials. It might cost a lot. Just build me a statue this big. That's it. Guys, my opponent didn't castle. My opponent actually, believe it or not, castled queenside. Now, I still went for tricks here. I went for, knight e5. I could have also maybe went a5. Now, you can kind of feel this position's going to be very airy. You shouldn't have that much space next to the king. You really, you should be protecting the king a little bit better than that. So I went knight to g4. And my opponent went here, but I felt like, the tide's changing here. I felt like even though I'm doing some good stuff in this position, at some point, these pawns are going to become a problem, and, I don't feel very coordinated. Your queen should not be leading an attack into a wall of pawns. That's just never going to work. She's too powerful. The other pawns and the bishops and the knights need to do the damage. So king b8, and here my opponent, by the way, he could take this pawn, but obviously didn't want to because he felt like I was just going to open up on that side of the board. My opponent goes c5, and I strike in the middle with e5. So if takes, I have takes and takes, etc. And my opponent here thought for a while and went here. When I saw that move, I was like, oh, I might be losing. Because if I take with a rook, he goes bishop here, pinning my rook to my queen. If I take like this, he takes this, I'm going to lose one of my rooks. Okay, but of course, my opponent unaware that I am literally the god of the rook sacrifice. So when you beat me down, leave me all bloodied up, remember that thing we talked about earlier, right? A lot of fight analogies in this video. I just get more powerful. That's when I shed my last layer, right? And then that's when my wings grow. And so I took, and I went here, and I was ready. I was like, take my rook. Yep, I'm down 2 points of material. But there is a counterattack coming here that is going to be so brutal and so fast. I'm just going to go f5, bishop g7. And to be honest with you, I don't have a clue how white is going to stop my attack. You cannot inherently push all these pawns and expect your king to be safe. My opponent went queen d2, and I'm thinking, is he going to go queen d7? He's so afraid of my attack. He wants to trade the queens instantly. I'm looking at this position like, for the record, you see how I'm up 30 seconds on the clock? I'm down material. My position's a little harder than my opponent's position, but I have the clock. When you play 3, 5, 10-minute chess, even chess at your local chess club, the clock is a piece. It might not feel good to put pressure on your opponent on the clock while they're outplaying you, but you set up for a game where the clock determines your, effective ability to play good moves under a time constraint. Yeah, if we got unlimited time to think, we would play better moves, but that's part of the game. So I went f5, and I realized queen d7 is a huge blunder because this rook cannot defend this rook and the queen. And after queen d7 takes, bishop f3, the game's just lost. It's just lost. Now, my opponent defended pretty well. They went here, and I went here, and now white really needs to lose the rook because if white tries to keep the rook, it's rook g2. King can't really come forward because there's just mate everywhere. You're going to have to, at some point, probably lose your other rook, and it's just game over. It took a little while, but I managed to convert the position. My opponent tried to checkmate me. I ran out with my king like this, and here I just had to make sure that pawn was taken care of, and I had to not blunder my bishop. I need to win these 2 pawns. That's what I did. I went like this, brought my rook back, slid my rook out of the way. Everything is defended. My opponent's trying to promote the pawn, but just too slow. And after some 5 to 10 more moves, actually, right away, my opponent just surrendered. By the way, notice the time advantage. I kept the 20 to 30 second time advantage the entire time. I'll tell you exactly where I was when I won this game. I was laying in bed. Not even joking. Played this game on my phone, on the chess.com app. I remember I got this pairing. I was like, oh my God, I'm playing an anonymous 3100 Grandmaster. But I won. And I have now defeated 500 Grandmasters on chess.com. Exactly 500. I think in classical chess over the board and in rapid chess, I've beaten maybe 20. So I've defeated like 520 Grandmasters, bro. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'm so proud. That's an insane number, I have to say. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Get out of here.